all that really matters for this is that like Edison gets like a patent and he completes the kinetoscope, right?
Okay.
Dixon's the one who does it, but there's just every little part of it separately is being developed, and he sort of just bullies his way into it, and he's like, okay, I'm going to be the first to market. And that's kind of what he's depending on, is that like it's very confusing. Nobody knows what claim was happening at what point. People don't have accurate like receipts for what was happening at another time. So he's like, screw it. I'm just going to go forward like I am the one who did this first and file these patents before anybody else figures out, and they were none the wiser. So the Kinetoscope premiered and was held at the Brooklyn Institute of Arts and Sciences on May 9th, 1893. And in an apparent shout out to me, the first film publicly shown in the system was The Blacksmith Scene, also known as Blacksmiths. Yeah.
Really?
It was directed by Dixon, the guy who basically invented everything, and produced at the world's first movie-making studio. Oh, yeah. It was produced at the first movie-making studio, Black Maria, which, of course, was owned by Edison, and naturally, Edison takes credit for all of it. He's like, I'm the one who did this. The Black Maria, the studio, is kind of interesting. I'm not going to get into it because that's a whole other discussion, but it's like a lot of cameras have to do, especially early motion picture cameras, because it's moving so quickly through. It has to get developed so quickly. You need a lot of light for movie cameras to work, particularly at that time. So it's like the Black Maria is this crazy thing where like the sunroof opens and it's like all this daylight's coming in so they can film on like one side, and then they have to flip it based on like what time of day it is so they can get the maximum amount of daylight to come into the camera. It's kind of cool. It's kind of wacky, but it's not super relevant to this story, but it might be something to look into at some point. It's interesting.
Okay.
And what matters is at this point, the Kinetoscope is it's a big success. Everyone's like, oh, that's so super cool. We love it. We can see these clips. So suddenly these Kinetoscope parlors start popping up everywhere. And for like basically about a quarter, you could see a 20-second, what they were billing as living pictures on a peephole Kinetoscope machine. Remember, the Kinetoscope was the actual, it was like a box that you looked into.
Right.
Rather, there was not big projection yet at this point.
It was like a singular, like, one solo thing to do, like
exactly, yeah, it was a solitary experience meant to be for like 20 seconds where you look at it and there'd be like a few of them in a row so you could look at like different things. And additionally, they're all one shots, so there's no editing or anything like that yet. And the big problem for film at this time is that film strips are super unstable and they can rip very easily. So they can only feed in so many feet of film before the thing gets busted and
freaks
out.
Whoa.
Freaks out and tears, is very unstable. So that's Edison for now. So around the same time, a guy named Woodville Latham and his two young boys, Otway and Grey, think of those are the most, they're the most like 19th century names I've ever heard.
Otman?
They moved Otway and Grey Latham. Around this time, they all moved to New York City because Otway and Grey had cleared out the assets of the family pharmaceutical business in Nashville.
Oh.
Because these idiots were some serious party boys who drank a lot of wine and loved to chase ass.
I mean, okay.
So
good
they
for them.
basically blow through the family fortune.
Wow.
And in a fact that attacks me personally, their dad kept working in the fields of chemistry and physics, which is literally what my father studied.
Really?
And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I did.
His sons
continue. His sons just went into the movie business?
I was going to say, they continued pursuing a career as cartoonists with a very mid podcast on the side. No, I'm kidding.
Just kidding.
I
agree.
It's mid at best.
It's mid for right now. Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. They worked for pharmaceutical they worked for pharmaceutical companies in the city of New York, and of course continued to screw around. So one day they're on a grab ass field trip. They're just gallivanting around the city of New York, and they run into Enoch Rector. Speaking of insane names, Enoch Rector, not rectum, rector.
That's bad. That's not a good name.
Enoch was their old classmate at the University of West Virginia.
I think it's Enoch, by the way.
Enoch. Well, I remember in Boardwalk Empire, they keep calling him Enoch. Enoch.
I keep interrupting you
Nucky.
with not good
They
things.
keep calling him Nucky.
Nucky?
Nucky is his name in
Rector?
the show. Nucky Rector. He's not a Jedi. He's Sith.
He's Sith for sure.
Yeah. Enoch is in New York. And he's like, oh, hey, what's up, bros? How you guys doing? I haven't seen you since we were back in school. And, the Latham brothers are like, bro, we're just crushing ass left and right. And they like high five each other. And they're just like, we're doing the damn thing. And Enoch, he's like, oh, yeah, that's cool, I guess. But like, I'm trying to find an actual job because he had just graduated with a degree in engineering. And the Latham boys were like, bro, that's awesome. But check it out. Have you ever seen like movies before? And he's like, no. And so they're like, let's do this. So they take Enoch to a Kinetoscope parlor on Broadway that had just opened up. And they're watching people like, videos of them like sneeze or do random stuff or whatever. And then they sort of start chatting. They're like, this is the business to get into. And legend has it that they thought it would be cool to watch boxing because people went apeshit over prize fighting.
Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, all we got to do is get this Edison fella to photograph a fight for this machine. And then we can take that and invest it in some meme coin like Bowden. And bam, we got back the family fortune.
They have that accent is the most beautiful Tennessee accent I've ever heard. Good job.
Enoch, he's like, I don't know about the whole like investing in crypto part of it, but filming a fight sounds like a cool idea. But we need to figure out a way to capture clips longer than 20 seconds. Because remember, the film tears very easily. And the Latham boys were like, all right. They were like, great, let's do this. But first, cocaine. And then they get like wasted and they keep partying. Yeah. So
you're telling me that cocaine and film have been buddies since the beginning?
I mean, the coke, just for the actual correct record, there's no mention of them doing cocaine. It just says that they're like getting wasted and partying. But I would think it's not a step, it's not a bridge too far to imagine that they're also doing cocaine at this moment. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. They might be going to like opium parlors, but they're getting like messed up. Like these guys, every article was just like, they had a reputation for being a bit of a part. Like they're all these like, subtle thing, not so subtle, but like indirect ways of being like, they had a reputation for liking women and a nice glass of wine. So like, I'm just imagining them just getting trashed every day, everywhere that they go.
That's the Victorian way of saying that they were degenerates.
Oh yeah. These guys were total degenerates.
I love them.
They are pretty funny, but they're high or drunk or whatever. And then they're like, boxing is cool. We should make videos that are longer so you can watch somebody beat the shit out of somebody else. That would be awesome. And so they establish the Kinetoscope Exhibition Company and they recruit two popular boxers of the day, Michael Leonard and Jack Cushion, to fight a match. And Enoch reached out to the Edison Manufacturing Company and basically makes a deal with them. And together they were able to extend the length of film of the Kinetoscope to go from 50 to 150 feet and reduce the number of frames shown per second so that each machine would be able to show a full 1 minute match.
Whoa.
And basically they stage this fight and Jack Cushing and Michael Leonard go at it. And then they have like a quick round and it's like under a minute and that's it. And they film it. And they take that clip. So they're kind of like the first movie producers in a way where they're like, we have this idea for this thing that's going to go for like longer distribution. And then they have to figure out what the actual tech is in order to make that happen. So an insane extrapolating analog for today would be like James Cameron being like, I want to make this motion capture, whatever, like 3D movie called Avatar. So I'm going to hire these guys to develop the technology. And then it makes a bunch of money.
Right. And then now we have that technology.
Right. So essentially they do this and then they take this boxing match to these Kinetoscope parlors and it's this huge hit. It's like making, I mean, in relative terms, it's not like a huge hit in terms of, they're not making billions at the box office, but like people love it. They're really into it.
Imagine being somebody that's like, I watched someone sneeze for 10 seconds and then you see a full boxing match. That would blow my Victorian mind. It would destroy me.
Exactly.
In a good way.